All right. Hello, everyone. Very happy to see you in such a large number. Thank you for coming. I'll be briefly talking about reputational avatars and other NFT 2.0 magic that we've come up with in the form of new Ethereum, EVM standards that we would like you to use as soon as possible so that we can grow this ecosystem together. I want to encourage you to ask questions during the talk. I don't want you to wait until the end, so feel free to interrupt me if there's something unclear. And I will do my best to answer it. But I will speed through this so that we can discuss use cases and basically get into some conversational parts really quickly. So really briefly about me, my name is Bruno. I founded Remark, rmrk.app. We basically created standards that we call NFTs 2.0. They're individual separate Legos that work standalone really well. But when you combine them together, you can really create truly impressively complex NFT scenarios that are nonetheless compatible with old legacy marketplaces and 721. So really using these standards is like walking into a car shop where there are two exact cars that cost the exact same amount of money. They look identical. Only one of them can also fly and go underwater. So there's no reason not to get this one, even though you're not going to be flying a lot or going underwater a lot, but why not be able to do it, right? And this focus in particular is about reputational avatars because that's a very obvious use case that people can relate to, especially because during bear markets, governance turns into like garbage. You end up with a lot of greed and a lot of panic from core founders or holders of the tokens who then want to hijack the DAO. And a lot of the DAOs end up being captured, which is actually easily solvable. And well, in theory, I want to deploy this into practice, and it's going to happen in Q4 of this year. Right now, we're running some prototypes, and they're looking good. So to backtrack a little bit, an NFT 1.0 is just a static piece of media, usually. If it needs to be dynamic, it's usually hosting metadata on a centralized server, which is then rugged and replaced with something else, and that's dynamic. Or it has an admin key in the smart contract, which, again, the issuer can use to upload something new. Not exactly the decentralized vision, right? For most people, this is fine. For almost all people, this is fine. But we can do better. And NFTs 2.0 in this case can actually upgrade NFTs 1.0. We made this upgrader tool that you can use to upgrade any NFT collection into 2.0. So what does that mean? Well, there are 5 main ERCs I want to talk about today. And we can focus on each one of them separately, and you can then think of other use cases for them. I'm applying them now to this use case, but they are far widely applicable. The first one is a multi-asset NFT standard, or, well, this says EIP because it's a screenshot, but actually it's an ERC. So 5773 allows you to have multiple file outputs in the same NFT. It's not airdrops, it's not different NFTs, it's just different outputs. Which means that this solves the age-old problem of gamers hating NFTs because you can't take a skin from Fortnite into, I don't know, Borderlands, whatever. Now you can, because there's a skin file for one game and a skin file for the other game in the same NFT. And the context in which you load it depends, it affects which one is loaded. It also applies to other types of media. You can have an ebook that is at the same time a PDF file and an audio file. And if you load it into Audible, it'll just play, right? If you load it into Kindle, it'll just show you the PDF. But it happens in the same NFT. That's the advantage here. The owner of a multi-asset NFT can always pick the priority asset to show in marketplaces so that if you want to sell it on a legacy marketplace like OpenSea, you can select which one has the priority. Now, the other two are ERC 6059 and ERC 6220. These two allow you to put, so 6059 allows you to put NFTs inside of other NFTs. The owner of an NFT no longer has to be an account, it can be another NFT. And so this is all final, this has been merged into EIPs, it works, it's been tested in production for over a year. Let's say that you have this lobster NFT. The lobster has, and there are several hat NFTs that are completely separate, right? You can put those into the lobster, they're inside. 6220 allows you to define slots with which some of these assets are compatible. So the lobster can have a head slot which can equip one of these hats. So you can put a hat onto the lobster or replace it with another hat. So you can have NFTs inside the other NFT, some of which are in use, others are not. Now, what happens if our primary asset is the voxelated lobster? The art style of the hat doesn't really match it anymore. It doesn't look good if you try to equip it. So they're not compatible. But since every NFT based on these standards is actually following the same rules, this means that these hat NFTs are also multi-asset NFTs. So they're also this, which means that the hat can have an alternative asset for itself, which is itself a voxelated version. Now the styles match, and now you can equip the voxelated hat on the voxelated lobster. So this allows you to have that method of applying assets across different games with different engines and different visual styles and so on. What happens if a new collection comes out that is completely unrelated, a stained glass window collection, and that one really can't wear hats, right? So that's super incompatible. And it's not even by the same collector, by the same issuer. Doesn't matter. Again, we add a new asset to the hat, a stained glass version of the hat. Every asset you add can have a definition for which collection it's compatible with and which slot in that collection. And now, let's say that this little circle here is one such slot. So we'll tell the stained glass version of the hat asset, you are compatible with this slot in this collection. And so now you actually can put the hat into this slot. So what did you achieve by this? You are now part of a tide that raises all the boats, because every new collection that enters this ecosystem, which is open and permissionless and fully decentralized without centralized indexers and without needing a middleman to maintain a centralized UI, every collection that launches is no longer engaged in a default vampire attack with all the other collections. Today, when you launch an NFT collection, you are attacking other collections, collectors, traders, users, because you want them. So by definition, you want their attention, you want to take them from the other collections. Here, no. Here, everybody grows together. The more stuff is launched, the more it's compatible with everything else. And when I see a cool stained glass hat, I will ask this person, where'd you get it? And they will tell me. And so this extends into the 6454 ERC, which allows soulbound NFTs to be part of other NFTs. Essentially, you can lock an NFT inside another NFT, but the parent can still be transferable, which means the soulbound NFT goes with it, but it cannot be transferred outside of it. And this is especially useful for reputation. Let's say that we have 3 projects, Yearn, Coinbase, Jumper Exchange, and they all have some tasks for you to do. Some of these tasks are purely reputational. If you do them, you get some reputation, which is a non-transferable NFT inside of your NFT avatar or whatever you have. Let's say it's a lobster. Some of them are also bound to the minting function of an equipable NFT, which means that if you achieve this, if you do this task, you will get the reputation, but also an equipable. And so let's say I did some tasks. I got 3 reputations and 2 equipables. Now I can equip these hats onto my lobster and show off that I've done this task. But also I have this reputation in my lobster that I can never take away. So if a protocol needs to check if I did something, they just check for reputation. But I also have some cool swag that gamified my whole participation experience, which is pretty nice. A nice way to reward your ambassadors. Now the other guy comes in with his stained glass avatar, and he does another set of tasks. He gets 2 reputations, and one of them has the equipable stained glass hat. The really cool thing about this is nobody in this entire system has to know each other. They're all strangers. They never collaborated. But because they're all based on the same standard, this is all mutually compatible, which leads to the ability to trade between completely unrelated collections and using these equipables and swag and gamification across collections, again, growing the pie for everybody. This is part of the global item economy that is built on top of this entire system. Again, permissionless, open, and very, very available to all of you, to all the collections, to anybody who wants to launch something. So by doing this, you actually kind of foster cross-collection royalty collection, which rewards creators, which rewards the projects themselves, and which essentially makes one project's user base inherit another project's user base. You merge these communities. So, and in this fantasy scenario, which is really dumbed down and simplified into just integer points, you can have a system where, for example, Jumper has applied certain points to certain tasks. And Coinbase did the same, and Yearn did the same. Now, if you do this task for Jumper, you get 10 points. If you do this task for Coinbase, you get 5, and so on. Maybe in some cases, Coinbase dislikes Jumper so much that they apply negative value to your actions if you do this for Jumper. And so you have this entire game theory of project wars where they compete for the attention of their ambassadors using reputation, swag, and so on. And this is just numerical. It is totally applicable to full-on merit. So you can have categories of work you did for a project, and your reputation can grow in that category. Therefore, your vote in that category will be stronger. For example, Alice did some tasks for Coinbase, but they're all related to events. She managed food, she was a good vibes officer, she helped people, put away their backpacks, whatever. But Bob coded something for Coinbase. He was really active in like open source work and so on. They can both be level 5, but now she has a reputation higher in the events category, and he has a reputation higher in the dev category. Matters of governance that require dev voting power will be skewed towards Bob because he has more experience in it, and his vote will be more powerful. And this is how you avoid plutocratic governance over DAOs, which is by default meritocratic and categorized into these different merits. So I know I said a lot here, but we'll go through some examples. But essentially, these reputational avatars into which you can put these non-transferable NFTs and grow their reputation over time, which are all mutually compatible, allow you access gating by reputation, so you need to be a dev level 5 for this to work. And none of this needs a separate database to track. None of this needs centralized tools. None of this needs Discord roles. None of this needs any of that stuff. It's all on-chain, it all works, and anybody can read your reputation at any time. Coinbase may come up with a beta product that they will only let people with a certain reputation in a certain category access, because now they can very easily read this directly from your NFT. And since NFTs can hold other NFTs into infinity, into as deep as you want, you can have a Thanos avatar who has an infinity gauntlet item, which has gems in it, and so on. It goes into as deep as you want it to go. Whale resistance here is in the fact that you no longer... So what is the whaling problem of DAOs right now? If you have entities who have a lot of tokens, which are also voting power and money, this means that they're voting with money. If that DAO has any kind of staking, this means that they're perpetually getting richer and more powerful in voting, which also means that they are reluctant to give away any of that power because they lose it. So if there's any kind of treasury, you will immediately get resistance from the whales, because paying out the treasury introduces sell pressure to a token, which to them directly translates as power. They're allowing you to sell their power. But if you start off everyone at 0 reputation and completely discount token holdings, then anybody can always catch up to anybody. Nobody is forever out of reach, because even the most enthusiastic people who participate in the project in the beginning will fade out over time. And they will be replaced by new, naive, interested kids who really want to participate, who really want to change the world. And so you can always catch up to somebody in this system by just being an active participant. And this leads to a natural kind of shift of power over time, where the old farts are phased out of the system and the new guys replace them because they are more active, more enthusiastic. And if you're an old fart who just wants to stay in, you can just be more active. There's the zero-sum game resistance that I mentioned, because everything's compatible with everything else. It can all just work. And there's gamification of participation, which is really important to some people like me. If you add gamification to any kind of governance or ambassadorship, I'm in. I'm a sucker for that, and I want to collect everything, and I'm just going to do it. And it also allows you to have NFTs 2.0 as accounts, because they can now hold other NFTs, values, even ERC20s, and you can just use them as your accounts. And we've played with account abstraction on chains like ZK Sync, which have it natively, to avoid the contract bloat and just to do that natively. Some examples coming to production very soon. Blossomland, using these ERCs to actually do exactly that. So meritocratic categorized reputation for people in Web3. This is not your average LinkedIn attestation, skill attestation thing. It's projects that are able to mint reputation into other people's profiles that are pending. And when those people come to the platform and register for their profile, a single transfer function is triggered, which moves their avatar to them and then makes it non-transferable. So we also have this concept of semi-bound tokens, which are neither soul-bound nor transferable. Like with Bitcoin, it has value because most people think it has value. And non-transferable tokens are non-transferable only until people choose to make them transferable, in this case. And so our system for excuse me, restoring lost accounts, for example, is you can come in, propose moving this avatar to somebody else for a deposit, and then if everybody else with this reputation of this collection agrees, or a certain threshold of them, you will define this as the DAO that's being formed. If you agree, then a single transfer is made possible of this avatar, and you will be able to restore the account. The same applies here. They have a single transfer function so that if you're not on this platform, people can still mint reputation for you, but you can always claim your profile and continue using it. And then you'll keep getting reputation minted into it directly. Projects use this, and they can add custom ontology reputation into the system so that they can give you a reputation for literally anything you did. It's going to be a really fun project. Crescent Codex is our inaugural mint on the Moonbeam chain, which we launched, follows a similar thing, similar pattern, where you will be getting these child NFTs, moon-themed, for any actions you do on our singular marketplace. So it's just a kind of a gimmick, but it's like more like a demo that allows you to play with these equipables, nestables, and everything else that we have in the UI. There's Lobster Dog Food DAO coming, which is essentially an OG group of people, founders from the Web3 and DeFi space, who are desperately looking for ways to pump the value of their NFTs that allow them to be in this group, but have been struggling to find these ways. And so this allows projects to hire them to dog food your project and give you feedback, and based on this feedback and the amount of feedback you give, you will be rewarded with reputation. And over time, higher reputation means higher distribution of these payments that projects put into the treasury of the DAO. Again, fully reputation-based and no plutocracy. Now, if you want to get started with all of this, all the links are on evm.rmark.app, or if you just go to spt2.io with Soulbound 2.0, you can find them there. There's sample contracts. There's also a video series at remark.link/GoNFT2 URL that you can use to start building on this. But more tutorials, dApp starters, templates, and everything else is coming. It's on the way. We've just launched on Ethereum last night or the night before. So it's still kind of experimental. We've been on Moonbeam up until now, and Polygon is coming next week, and other EVMs very, very soon. What's really cool about this is whatever you launch on it will be visible on legacy marketplaces. So OpenSea will be able to show this, and other marketplaces will be able to show this. You'll just be missing the core functionality of nesting, equipables, and all the other advanced stuff, but the visuals are there. We opted not to take the iframe route on purpose, which many projects do, where when they launch on OpenSea and so on, they will usually embed an iframe to load their asset, and this makes them look dynamic. But the iframe is hosted on a centralized server. Nothing about this is centralized. Anybody can take this and run with it. Anybody can build on top of it, and it's fully decentralized. Our equipables and this NFT 2.0 functionality has never been really hard to build. But it's hard to build it in a way that it's forever backwards and forwards compatible. Our focus was making these collections forever work together, so that if 10 years from now a new game comes out, it's compatible with assets that exist. That's what we wanted to do, and that's what we did with these ERCs. So I have some more time for these use cases. This is one example of those cross-game skins that I mentioned. So they can be both in the same file, and you can just load them into any game that you play. If the intention is to play in Borderlands, that's going to be the white unicorn skin because that's the style. And if you want to play it in Fortnite, that's going to be the left one. But they can be part of the same NFT. You can have digital ticket books for stubs and POAPs as an NFT that collects these POAPs for you inside of that other NFT, which itself can be transferable or non-transferable, but it can make account recovery very, very easy. Up until recently, for example, in Lens, when you were using your account, every single relationship you've done, like, follow, collect, everything was a separate NFT. And that's kind of abstracted away in the UI, but very, very impractical if you want to migrate your account. If this were using 6059, where all the NFTs were going into one NFT, it would be just one transaction to move hundreds or thousands of NFTs in one go, saving tremendous amounts of gas and also allowing you to very easily migrate your profile. Revealable NFTs are made very easy with this because you can always update the asset that an NFT has. So you can update new art. If you mint an NFT using these standards without any assets, it will act as the average 721. As soon as you upload any asset into it, then that one will override it. And you don't really have any admin keys to do this here. Every operation on these ERCs is a 2 of 2 multi-sig operation. That means that if I'm the owner of an NFT, the minter of the collection cannot just replace my art, but he can propose it, and I have to accept it. The same works with children. Right now, if you try to add a new child NFT into the parent NFT, it will go into a pending array, and I, as the recipient, have to accept it. This prevents somebody, look, I want to sell my Bored Ape, and somebody bombs it with swastikas. Can't happen. Because if they send me a bunch of NFTs that I don't want to into my Bored Ape, they'll just go into the pending array, which is a limbo where I don't have to care about them. They're not visible. I have to accept them in the special UI. Asset backup is also a very interesting use case where, because you have multi-asset NFTs, they don't have to be different. They can also be the same asset, but on different locations. So you can have one asset that points to the model of the lobster on a centralized server, one asset that points to it on IPFS, one asset that points to it on Arweave, and so on. And so the chances of all of these asset endpoints going down are exponentially lower than having it in one single location. So you can have on-chain in NFT backups of the metadata. And something so the multi-asset NFT is actually a special story that we can talk about later, but it really enables this multi-multimedia world of NFTs where many artists have used our platform to actually upload a beautiful piece of art they did, and then uploaded a separate asset that is the making of video. And they recorded the entire time lapse of just drawing that or sculpting that or whatever. So this is really beautiful. There's evolution. You can actually evolve and change your NFT over time by proposing these new assets and replacing them, changing them. And so if you want to fix mistakes, or if you want to upload a new higher fidelity, higher resolution asset, all of that can be done using multi-asset in a fully decentralized way. The obvious use case here also is gaming, where, and this is something that we're working on, if you have like an in-game character, an avatar, that avatar itself is transferable. We have this world planned where the entire world is an NFT, which contains lands that are NFTs, which contain buildings that are NFTs, which contain avatars that are NFTs, which contain backpacks that are NFTs, which contain other NFTs. And if you abstract that away enough, everything can be this data structure. And so the avatar is actually an NFT that can have pockets or whatever, but the avatar can also contain a non-transferable NFT that's a brain. The brain itself can have skill slots in it, and the skills you collect in the game can also be non-transferable NFTs. And so when you have this avatar, that avatar has a number of skills in their brain inventory, but only 2 slots to equip them in. So now they have to pick which skills they're going to equip. It's like the old RPG mechanics of D&D where you had to rest the character to learn new spells. But this time it's all on-chain, and there's no database in between needed to index all of this. So it's perfect for fully on-chain RPG mechanics. If you want to build a fully on-chain, finally a true Web3 game, now this is very possible, very easy to do with this stuff. And of course, it's applicable to many more media types. Like you can have a collaborative music composition where a music sheet is completely empty, but has slots for vocals, bass guitar, lead guitar, drums, whatever. And so one person can mint a drums track, another person can mint a vocals track. You put these together, you equip these into the proper spots, and you have a collaborative composition that can mint a copy of itself every time it's traded and distribute royalties to everybody who contributed based on their tracks in this NFT. Additionally, this can then be cloned and modified with filters, with other tracks, remixes, and so on. Again, all on-chain and all fully decentralized. Naturally, it's much easier to have a bespoke UI that makes this very easy to interact with, but any UI that supports these standards can handle this stuff. And this is what our Marketplace Singular app is actually doing. That's it. I have, seconds remaining. So thank you very much. And if we have a few seconds for a question, happy to answer something.
Hi, yeah, thank you for the presentation. It was very interesting. You mentioned something about having to double sign somehow, like the publisher, the editor, and the owner to validate an upgrade of a contract. Is there also something similar, like if I'm a publisher, I have a collection, I have prepared slots, for example, for the hat, but I don't want any hat to be added to my avatar because I care about the look of my brand, etc. Can I whitelist a collection that can be added? Or?
Exactly. IP protection is built in, where every collection you create we have this new primitive on chain called the catalog, and the catalog lists all the parts of your composable NFT. So if you're building a composable NFT like an avatar or something, you will first list all the parts in this catalog, and then you will mint from these parts. It's a bit hard to understand in an abstract way, but essentially it's like a list of everything your character is composed of. These parts can be fixed or slots. And so the fixed parts are basically usually SVGs that are then layered over each other, whatever. And between them, the slots go, so that you can emulate holding something, top of the hand, bottom of the hand. You can define the list of collections that can go into each slot. Okay. And so this goes into the catalog, and it's updatable. So you can put an asterisk there, and this means it's completely community controlled. Everybody can mint anything compatible with it. But if you want to keep it your way, keep your art limited, or maybe even sell whitelist spot to, I don't know, Coca-Cola, which wants to add a bandana to her avatar that says Coca-Cola, you can do that, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to go with the next speaker.